welcome to our daily English news right here on Tigray Media House. I'm Deleitna Dawalgo. Our headlines for today include nationalist priests of Tigray have called on the international community to take a practical and meaningful action against Ethiopia's excesses. Ethiopia's former minister sets the record straight on Abiy Ahmed's handling of the war in Tigray, and Ethiopia's Tigray taps Muslim past in propaganda push. The nationalist parties of Tigray call on the international community to take a practical and meaningful action to pressurize Ethiopia to stop the aerial bombardments and allow unfettered humanitarian access. The nationalist parties of Tigray in joint also called on the international community to act and to stop the foreign interference that is exacerbating the war and that's leading the regional conflagration. They reaffirmed their stance on the peaceful resolution of the conflict and expressed their readiness to take part in any peace endeavor. They urged the international community to engage in all the Tigrayan forces in general and political parties in particular in any peace initiatives. The Washington Post says that the U.S. should make its decisions on trade sanctions based on how seriously Abiy Ahmed's engagement in the process of dialogue with his opposition. As recently as 6 weeks ago, Ethiopia's government seemed at the brink of defeat, the country itself at risk of fragmentation. Troops from Ethiopia's Tigray region in the north of the country were making what seemed to be an unstoppable southward march into the capital of Addis Ababa. With the withdrawal of the Tigrayan forces, however, the unexpected result has rendered an opportunity for a peaceful statement to a needless year-long civil war that has cost tens and thousands of lives. Tigrayan forces are now back in their home region, according to a statement released on the 19th. An announcement from President of Tigray Debretsion Gebremichael himself. The statement included a call for negotiations. Abiy announced last week that his forces will halt their advances as on Tigrayan borders. Abiy's relative restraint may reflect his concern for outside pressure, including from the Biden administration, which has threatened to limit U.S. market access for roughly about $150 million worth of Ethiopian exports under the African Growth Opportunity Act. A final decision on that possible sanction is due on January 1st. By facilitating humanitarian aid to Tigray and releasing ethnic Tigrayans and others his forces took as political prisoners in the capital of Addis Ababa, Abiy could start rebuilding the trust with his own ethnically diverse people and with international mediators from the United States, Europe, the United Nations, and the Organizations of African Unity. The United States should make its decision on trade sanctions based on how seriously Abiy is engaging in the process of dialogue with his opponents, and talks are the only way to conclude the war and the ongoing conflict. According to the Washington Post, the government's purchase of drones from countries which are themselves often at odds with each other and another shows that Ethiopian conflict has already dangerously drawn outside nations. It could yet spill over to Sudan and Egypt, each of which has long-standing issues with Addis Ababa. International meddling in Ethiopia's civil war and its use of proving ground for new military technologies has already caused some analysts to compare it to the civil war that engulfed in Spain in the year of 1936 and foreshadowed the Second World War. Preventing a repetition for that awful history creates yet another incentive for the United States government to remain extremely engaged and to support all credible efforts at containing the conflict and ultimately bringing a durable peace to the country of Ethiopia. Ethiopia passes a law that excludes Tigray and Oromo oppositions from planned national dialogue. Ethiopian lawmakers have approved a bill to establish a commission for the national dialogue amid international pressure for the negotiations to end a 13-month-long conflict in the region of Tigray. The commission is to be established under the law, however, will not engage with the Tigray People's Liberation Front or the Oromo Liberation Army, both of which are currently fighting the federal army. Some government officials have specifically said that the new commission will not be engaging in talks with the Tigrayan forces, but the commission's creation may be an effort to respond to the international community's persistent calls for a ceasefire and include dialogue to resolve the conflict, and this was said by Adala Lemma, CEO of Hankin Publishing, the publisher of the prominent Addis Standard media outlet. When the international community requested holding inclusive dialogue to address Ethiopia's deepening crisis, there is no ambiguity on the need for such dialogue to be truly inclusive by having various stakeholders, include armed groups, be a part of the process, he said. The government so far has a strict policy of no negotiations with the armed groups. With this as background, it's safe to say that the National Dialogue Commission is just an extension of the government's inadequate attempt at scratching the thick surface in Ethiopia's overwise, multi-layered, and complex political crisis. Ethiopia's devastating war is believed to have caused the death of tens of thousands of people and displaced millions of others, and pushing hundreds and hundreds into famine-like conditions as well. Ethiopia's former minister sets the record of Abiy Ahmed's handling of the war in Tigray straight. Filsan, like so many, was drawn by Abiy's pledges to build a new Ethiopia free of the bloody ethnic rifts of the past, overtures that built Abiy's global reputation as an honest broker and helped him win a Nobel Peace Prize. Then the opposite happened. Less than a year into his tenure, Ethiopia was spiraling into an ethnically tinged civil war that was engulfed in the northern part of the country, and Filsan found herself tasked with documenting some of the world's most horrific aspects, such as mass rapes by uninformed men and the recruitment of child soldiers. In September, she became the only cabinet minister to resign over Abiy's handling of the war. This week, Filsan, now 30, broke her public silence in a lengthy, exclusive interview with the Washington Post, in which she described the cabinet discussions in the lead-up to the war, officials' effort to suppress her ministry's finding about abuses by the government and its allies, and the resurgent ethnic division fracturing the country. This week, Filsan, now 30, in Tigray, Filsan was told to create a task force that would investigate widespread claims of rape and recruitment of child soldiers. We brought back and most painful stories, she said, recalling and adding, however, that in trying to release the findings, she was told that she was crossing too many boundaries. Filsan said that she was told to revise the report to say that only TPLF-aligned fighters and had committed crimes, and when her subordinates at the ministry wouldn't release the full report, she chose to tweet that rape has taken place conclusively and without doubt in the region of Tigray. Since then, even her childhood friends have shied away from being and seeing with her in fear of the association and what that would bring. Colleagues in her ministry referred to her as a protector of Tigrayans, she said, implying that she had eventually turned into a traitor. The task force's conclusions have since been chosen and echoed by a slew of reports by the human rights organizations. Filsan recalled that before she resigned, she had been told by the high-ranking official in Abiy's Prosperity Party, then by an official on his personal office, that all Tigrayans on her staff and other ministries too were to be placed on leave immediately. She also added that she wouldn't do it unless the prime minister called her himself, or they put it in writing, adding that subordinates of her enforced the order anyway. Many Ethiopians are lying to themselves, she said. They deny that ethnic element has become a major part of this war. Filsan also said that things have only gotten worse, saying, "I knew it then, I knew it before then, and I know it now." He's in denial, he's in delusion, his leadership is falling, and she said that her former boss, Abiy Ahmed, is on a decline. A spokeswoman of Abiy's declined to comment on Filsan's recollections. Ethiopia's finance ministry proposed an additional $2.47 billion budget to help counter fallout of the civil war that destroyed infrastructure, displaced millions, eroded government revenue, and deterred investments. The extra allocation for the financial year ending in the 7th of July, which will bring total spending for the year to a total of 683.7 billion birr, will be used for the national security humanitarian assistance, as well as the rehabilitating infrastructure, the ministry said in a Facebook post on Thursday. The additional budget was needed due to the war in the northern part of the country, the government's inability to meet the current demand for revenue, and as well as the need for the additional expenditures. Earlier this week, the Council of Ministers agreed to scrap the petroleum products subsidizing in 6 months' time. The government's failure to end hostilities has seen Western nations withdraw budgetary support and the state that have been working to increase domestic tax revenue. The finance ministry had also rescheduled some projects and sought to contain any more expenditures. The Arab-speaking Tigrayans are drawing on an early Islamic history in a push to rally solidarity among the Muslim online for their battle against the government. Tigrinya speaking writing in Arabic have sought to remind people about the role in the region played as one of the first Islamic settlements and as a refuge for early Muslims fleeing the Mecca. But while their references may be drawn from the Quran, the conflict in Ethiopia is not religious but extremely ethnic, one Tigrayan activist using the alias Mustafa Habashi told AFP in Arabic. One Twitter account said Tigray in Arabic has amassed about 40,000 followers in just a few months. It translates statements by leaders of the Tigray forces in Arabic, publishes reactions to statements from Addis Ababa. Our mastery of Arabic and our Islamic culture has helped us address the Arab and Muslim world to make our cause known as much as possible. For reference, the number of Facebook users in the Arab world stands about 187 million, and about 1400 years ago, companions of the Prophet Muhammad fleeing persecution sought refuge within the Christian king or the Nugus in the city of Aksum, now a key town in Tigray. Tigrayans are using the history to reach out to the estimated 300 million Arabics active on social media, and Habashi said that the Tigrayan media push meant that Arabic speakers were becoming more and more interested in what is currently happening in the country of Ethiopia. Internationally, the Tigrayan media campaign may hope to act as a counterbalance to those backing the government, with countries including United Arab Emirates, Turkey, and Iran have reportedly supplied Addis Ababa with drones deployed against the TPLF, according to analysts. In the past, you need Tigray, and it is because of that that I am Muslim today, proclaimed on an activist YouTube account, and goes to say, now it's Tigray that needs you. That wraps up our news for today. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.